I now invite Abha to moderate the discussion. Abha is a fourth-generation entrepreneur who hails from a family of industrialists. She received the master's degree in instructional design and psychology from Harvard University and has been awarded the prestigious Dean's Award for Academic Excellence. In the year 2006, she started Paramount Global, a company that provides college guidance and support to schools and students in helping them build their profile and maximizing their potential in college applications. Abha has also worked with the prestigious Harvard College's admission office and has strong ties with the admission officers across the globe. Was voted as the #1 entrepreneur in Andhra Pradesh through a survey conducted by WOW, a Hyderabad magazine. She was selected amongst an extremely august group of entrepreneurs, and ironically, she was the only woman to be featured on the list. Over to Abha to take the discussion forward.
Thank you, Rati. Good morning, everyone. Before we begin today's discussion, I would like to thank Shri Deshpande ji for his inspiring and informative speech. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the key dignitary of today, Mrs. Ramadevi Bomidara. To me, she's an older sister and a guardian angel. So thank you for everything. So moving on with today's panel discussion, the word Sa Vidya Ya Vimuktaye is inscribed in our ancient scriptures, which when translates means knowledge is one that liberates. But is knowledge truly liberating us today? With the emergence of new age curriculums, dependency on technology, and a high emphasis on extracurricular activities, are we as a society forgetting our roots and moving towards learning that could prove to be fatal? I would like to ask this question to Dr. Sancheti first. Sir, what are your thoughts about this?
Can I come there?
Sure, sir.
Namaskar and a very good morning to you all. First of all, my heartiest congratulations to FICCI Flow for celebrating their foundation day. I think it's 33rd if I've calculated it correctly. 31. 1983 is when you were founded. So 83, 84, 85, I thought maybe something like that. Anyway, congratulations, and it's wonderful to celebrate the day with a theme of education. And we were really given a head start by our chief guest, Mantri ji Deshpande Sahab, who talked length and breadth of what education has to be and how it should satisfy us or how it should lead us into doing something good. When I was invited here, Madam Lakshmi was the person who was chasing me and informing me about the activities. I was at little loss that how would I contribute and what would be my contributions. But having come here and known what you are trying to do, I'm very happy that I'll be enlightening you with some of my thoughts wherever possible. I do not know if time is a limitation. I'll request Madam Abha to possibly raise a flag or put a red flag, because teachers in front of mic are very bad. They don't tend to lose or they go out of that. Anyway, I was given a theme particularly related to the higher education and more so towards the traditional education. But when I was thinking about it yesterday, I thought I'll not be doing justice because we are talking of the emerging trends. So if I talk only about the traditional education, I'll be limiting myself and not expressing myself in what we need to do. And therefore, I've digressed, and without any formal permission, I'm going to basically share my thoughts on that. So we work in a domain which is, of course, new and emerging always, and that's basically that the education is something to do with at the root level data, maybe sometimes taking it further information, then possibly the knowledge, and then further the wisdom, and I do not know what will be the next dimension when it comes. But those are the changing scenarios which are happening. And therefore, if you possibly talk about the traditional education and the modern education. Modern means which is happening and going to happen also. So traditional education possibly would be, I would rate it to be a theme which was focused on content delivery. As a teacher, as a student, you would be focused, have you completed syllabus? Have you read every chapter? are you going to pass something and something like that. So it was more of content which was to be delivered and to be reproduced to be, in real terms. So it was very subject specific. You'll be limited to various, given dimensions, and you'll not be broadening your horizons. That was the traditional education. And it was obviously degree oriented, and once certified, I think that stamp which was given to you called degree would make you survive for the rest of your life. That was the trend, that I have a degree, and I also know personal cases where people will crave for a degree for sake of it because they didn't have any use, but they'll take the degree. The scenario has changed in the current context. Today we are doing education to satisfy ourselves, to attain knowledge. The quest for knowledge is what you can say is the one which is driving it. And then there are spectrum of courses or areas or skills which we want to acquire that. And obviously we have become little modern, so this is not a traditional one, the modern. And I'll beg to slightly differ with Mantri ji. I can do it easily now because he is not here. And I'll be with you in that case, that yes, as a Vice Chancellor of my university, I know that most of my students crave to get a job when they are on the campus. It still remains to be job oriented. I understand that 2 to 5% can go to entrepreneurship and drive us do well, which is fine. I know Bangalore will be the leader, so maybe there the percentage could be 5 to 10. But yes, job is something which most of the students would seek. And it's very obvious because before you take a plunge into something big, it's better to get experience, better to get connected, better to know about the field. So if I'm a counselor for a student of mine, I'll try to advise them that gain some experience, make your ideas ripe, and work on them simultaneously, and then take a plunge. No one stops you from working on what you want to be. And therefore, scenarios are changed and things are changed. Today, if I talk of the modern world or modern education system, the emphasis is on the learning, and then the next day or next year would be unlearning what you learned today. And then immediately after that will be emphasis on the relearning. That is the kind of scenario which we are going through today. And therefore, we have to be changing gears from time to time. It's not the status quo, not the same speed. And therefore, we have to be a lifelong learner. So challenges are much more now. And to support those challenges or to meet those challenges, obviously, we need more technology, we need more support, we need more such interactions to know what's happening. And the order of change is becoming too fast, and too fast for anyone to follow. Mantri ji also agreed to that, and we also agree that the doubling of knowledge was a parameter. We many a times talked about that. Previously it doubled in 5-10 years and later in 1 year. And these days people say a couple of months, the amount of knowledge which we are able to generate is doubling. And therefore the growth of higher education domain is also changing. So with that sort of a context, if I may be permitted to compare the traditional ones and the modern education to some extent, it's a bulleted thing because if I start elaborating, it will take long time. So if I can say that the earlier traditional learning was purely chalk and talk. It was less diverse in terms of the approaches or the methods or the processes, and also in terms of the scope which we would try to cover. And in the current scenario, you can say it's more diverse. The teaching learning can be based on the content delivery, obviously, which is very common, but the PPTs, the animations, the softwares, the web-based education, the video-based education, the virtual education, the interactive nature of education has made all that chalk and talk take or become a little subsided, but chalk and talk remains to be important. Most of us would like to do something there to make the class much more interesting. In the same way, we can say that previously the teaching was, or the learning was teacher driven, but today it is not so. Students don't care about teachers when they are in the class. They know that if they are delivering only subject, the subject is available at a click away from, from internet or wherever they want, and they can get many more teachers just on one hit, and maybe with much more clarity and all that. What they want is classes to be more interactive, classes to be more invigorative in the sense that they generate thought process, they make you think, they make you collaborate, they make you work, something like that is what they want. And therefore, The focus is more on generalization, relating it to the real life situation, and the diversity of it is the new trend which is there. When we move on to the terms of assessment and other things, little bit I can say that it was a frozen frame of teaching learning, that there will be one test, there will be second test or a midterm or half yearly or annual test, and it was an annualized system. So what you study today, 10 months later you reproduce it and then immediately you forget it. It's not the case. It's now a flexible frame of teaching learning. All teachers would tend to take the spot test or the surprise test or continuous evaluation or semesterized systems and so on and so forth. It actually works in the favor of the student, provided the student is ready to accept all that. Those who think they can sleep for 4 months and then come in the last month and do something, possibly they are in for a surprise, and many of them do get, including their parents if they are not wise. The same happens in terms of the performance. It's tough to score marks in the earlier cases. Getting 60%, I still remember people used to talk with a lot of pride saying that I am good second division. There was a class called good second division. It has suddenly disappeared. No one feels proud of first division also today, unless you are 90%, and we get it every day. A lot of people will come and report my son has done well, and they say 89% and we don't react. And we are helpless because every other person has 94 or 95%. We can't help it. So yes, I agree that the scoring marks has become easy because of relative grading, continuous evaluation, or maybe the lower benchmarks to say so, or we don't want to put the students under rigor and stress. It has happened. I think in general it's for good, but it should not be counted alone. You should not look at the percentages. You should look at the capabilities and the skills and the mindset and the ability to work in team, etc., along with that result, and that's how you get a product which you want. The same thing happens is that earlier the exams were reproduction centric, now it's the design centric or understanding centric or application centric, something of that nature. We also had the equal marking in the earlier system with equal weightages, but currently it's a credit-based continuous evaluation, semesterized as we say. Choice-based credit system is what UGC is enforcing on every institution from this year onwards, and therefore you can emphasize a subject much more than compared to another subject, which sometimes is very easy for us to deal with. Similarly, you can say that when it comes to various other courses which we require, so it was sufficient that you have a graduation for your lifetime survival, but today it is not. PG has become essential. Earlier graduation was fine, today PG has become essential, and graduation is considered as a base product. It's something like a silicon wafer on which you can grow anything called device or IC or any system or whatever, and that's how the PG is becoming essential for us to survive. And we found that the current education in terms of diversity is very challenging. As a result of all these changes which we have said, we had to improve the hands-on practice in the current setup. The hands-on practice in the earlier setup was not much because the facilities were not there. The cost probably was prohibitive or availability was poor. Today, the software has made the hands-on practice, at least the learning experience, complete. I cannot have a circuit where I can apply 1000 volt and perform the experiment because of safety, security. But in software, I can do that and see what happens. So I can simulate those conditions and do. So the learning has become much more comprehensive, much more complete. Earlier, I would say that the cost effectiveness of education was there in the sense that it was highly subsidized. Education was a sector either by the government or charitable institutions or societies for that purpose. Today it is not, unfortunately. Education is like any other business and industry, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are some entrepreneurs who are running the educational setups, and they shouldn't mind if we call it as an industry, or maybe to some extent a little bit of profit center also in that sense. And earlier, if I can say in a nutshell in terms of what changes between the previous one, the so-called traditional one and the modern one, In the traditional one, the degrees were ready-made. Now it's like, unlike what Mantriji was saying, that you want very high labels or trendy stuff. So ready-made is considered to be of that nature, but in education it's the other way around, that the degrees were ready-made. If I'm getting a BCom or I'm getting something with some combination, this is what I will get and nothing more. But today it is tailor-made. Today it is the dream of a student to do any degree he or she wants to do. For example, in my university, which is a Manipal setup, third one in the country, in last 63 years. They've started in Jaipur and I'm heading that. And we want to give degree, whether it's called BCom or BSc or BBA is immaterial. But for example, if they want a combination of music with maths and economics, I think that is the kind of subject they should be able to choose. And when they are allowed to choose such a thing, that is when I call that they are tailoring their degrees what they want. It's basically to satisfy them to what they want to learn rather than impose on them that what we want to teach them. So that is a change which is not currently moving on with the what fashion is actually especially doing. So fashion is not in sync with what we do in the education. And last point, and in this context, maybe later we'll get some more opportunity to share some thoughts, is education requirement today is anywhere, anytime, any mode, and any combination. Anywhere and any time means I want to study because I work in night shift or day shift. I want to study at some other time. I'm in America on a tour for a month. I would like to continue with my studies. I should continue. I should do it with web or video or virtual laboratory or one-to-one interaction, personalized or whatever. I should get that. And any combination, I've already given you the example. So these are some of the trends which are actually driving us in terms of what education space is. It's also evolving like any other field right now. But it's becoming more interesting, it's becoming more challenging. Only one point which we are always left with as a big question mark in education, that who are the people who want to become teacher? That's the biggest question, which we do tend to ask to society. I hope FICCI Flow will also help us in finding answer to that. Thank you.